Katt Williams is someone that we've covered here on the channel before. He exposed evil Hollywood, he exposed the music industry, he exposed things that were going on in the acting world, and even things that deeply relate to the Epstein files. And today, we're diving deeper into this story because an amazing video just dropped from Moon that we have to check out together. It's first thing in the morning for me, so I got my coffee ready to go as I watch through this one and give you guys my context along the way. Please, let me know what you're drinking, and thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Now, let's dive into the video.
Katt Williams risked his career to warn everyone about Hollywood for years. He was way ahead of his time, making comments like this.
All of these deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. All lies will be exposed because in 30 years, I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets.
He talked too much sense about a system where the truth was never fully hidden, but only buried beneath money, power, and fear.
It's a cabal. It's a consortium. They rock with who they rock with, and they don't with who they don't.
Now, for a little more context on Katt Williams, he was a comedian slash actor deep within the acting space. And something that a lot of people don't know is that he's actually extremely intelligent. Some go as far as saying that he is a genius. So all of this information that he's sharing with us is coming from a very bright mind, not as much just from an angry mind. Also, he did state that he was kind of under the radar until he did this interview with Shannon Sharpe, where it got millions of views, and then everyone knew what he was talking about.
He also avoided being swallowed up by the industry like so many others very close to him.
I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times because P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no.
He didn't predict the future, he was just far more perceptive than they gave him credit for. He reminded everyone that the rug of complicity doesn't stay safe and secure forever. And that's why the mainstream media made him out to be crazy, unhinged, a loose cannon not to be trusted.
Faison said that getting a Netflix special is easy. I have 12 specials. Guess how many Faison got? 0. Anybody that ever told you differently was a fat Faison liar. Shaq and Russell Simmons should get out of comedy and stay in their lane. Shaq's all-star, get out of here, you bum.
Like other comedians who tread the line between serious accusations and jokes, he was always great at using plausible deniability to his advantage. If people got uncomfortable, it was all still just a joke.
They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to suck my in front of all my people at my agency. What am I supposed to do?
But as the patterns he joked about came into full view, you couldn't just help but notice how he grew quieter.
Do you believe that Harvey Weinstein actually offered that favor to him? I do.
I came in this business saying I was going to expose. When I talked about Michael Jackson, when I talked about R. Kelly, they canceled me for these things because why would you talk about another black dude?
And then even quieter.
I'm honored to get to say the things that I say when I'm saying them, and because you know that I operate from a positive first standpoint in all things.
Until you start to wonder, had he said everything he needed to, or were his warnings silenced? Because by the time he started breaking all that ground on the podcast circuit, he'd come to take his role as Hollywood's exposer seriously. But it wasn't always this way, and before, he'd built his career playing turbulent, loud, unpredictable characters. To most people, he was just Money Mike, the loud, short character from the stoner comedy classic Friday After Next. Or, as he's more known now, he was the comedian constantly crashing out online. Throughout it all, Katt's career was far from immaculate.
Now, it's worth noting that Hollywood tends to make actors, actresses, comedians, musicians look like they're going insane whenever they're saying things that make Hollywood look bad. So a lot of these actors and actresses, or we should just call them people in high places within Hollywood, when we look at them like they've fallen off the deep end and gone insane, and we've had many examples of these types of people on the channel, oftentimes they're talking the truth and Hollywood's trying to silence them.
He was getting arrested, fighting people, and going viral. But it definitely helped with his authenticity that he came from a genuinely humble background, where he had to climb the ladder rather than get lifted up by his parents. He actually left home at 13 and moved to Florida by himself, and was then homeless in Miami for years before catching his break on the comedy club circuit. This is a rags to riches career arc that Hollywood pretends to love, but like so many others who follow it, such as Mel Gibson, Shane Gillis, Shia LaBeouf, the support system dries up much quicker than it does for those deeply embedded into the status quo. For years, people continued to ignore his serious side, because at first he was easy to dismiss as an unhinged comedian from a troubled background, and second, because jokes are still the safest place to hide the truth. And Katt understood this better than most. It's why his warnings have lasted so many years. And we can see the turning point here with the now infamous Club Shay episode that went hugely viral, combining the right talking points with timing that really caught people's imagination.
Did you see those views? 92 million views. All right, now people know that Katt Williams has something to say.
Katt sat across from Shannon Sharpe and openly talked about celebrity manipulation, hidden industry behavior, and the people protected behind the scenes.
They pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about. They tell you that themselves.
Shannon pushed back, and the tone seemed to move to a darker register.
Are you not afraid about being blackballed again? These are some power people.
What do you mean again? These people are not powerful. Satan can't create anything. That includes blessings for his people.
When Shannon says blackballed, he means being discreetly shut out of the industry. It comes from the old voting practice where members would drop a black ball into a box to secretly reject someone from a club. This is the moment when the two men sound philosophically opposed. Shannon is speaking in the language of Hollywood survival by warning about crossing the wrong people, while Katt is speaking like someone who has already accepted the consequences a very long time ago. He even tells Shannon,
"You having an unnatural allegiance to losers is not like you."
It feels less like a host interviewing a guest and more like Katt deciding how much truth is allowed to be heard.
Wow, he actually went at Shannon Sharpe right there with that statement.
Katt later ended up warning Shannon.
Not because I didn't like white women. I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not gonna act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared.
Months later, Shannon was then sued by Gabriela Zuniga, an OnlyFans model who'd been 19 when they met at a Los Angeles gym in 2023. The lawsuit filed in April 2025 under the name Jane Doe, accusing Sharpe of assault, battery, and emotional distress, claiming the relationship had turned abusive towards the end of 2024. She sued for $50 million. Sharpe denied everything, called it a shakedown, and publicly released text messages proving the relationship was consensual. He urged her attorney to release an unedited video of their encounters. The case was then settled confidentially in July 2025, with no admission of guilt from either side. So people immediately began revisiting the podcast, now seeing him as someone who was far more perceptive of the people around him than he let on. That's the thing you notice about Katt. His inner monologue is clearly engaged when he's doing these podcasts, and later on he casually says one name that caught people completely off guard. Chris Tucker.
And the Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker.
Shannon laughs, Katt laughs harder, then moves on almost immediately. But again, it later came to light he wasn't just sticking names into the melting pot for no reason.
Now, a lot of people think that he's just telling jokes and that this is just him trying to get a reaction, but in my opinion, Katt Williams is actually speaking a lot of truths, and people just look at it as jokes because he's a comedian, and a lot of times he got himself in situations where people can't look at him seriously. But truth is being told.
Because 2 years later, previously sealed Epstein documents would become public, and buried inside them was Chris Tucker's name. The exchanges come from Leslie Groff, Epstein's executive assistant for nearly 20 years, and she is most notorious for allegedly managing Epstein's massage schedule. In one email, Groff writes to Epstein, Chris Tucker called to say he will be in New York this Monday and wondered if you could do dinner. Then another to a redacted name. Chris Tucker will be stopping by to see J.E. sometime before his show tonight. No exact time was given. Although it should be noted that Chris Tucker has publicly stated his involvement with Epstein stemmed from a humanitarian trip to Africa focused on AIDS awareness alongside former US President Bill Clinton and actor Kevin Spacey, which all happened in 2002. Still, the emails mentioned were sent from 2013, meaning there might have been possible involvement with Epstein 11 years after the humanitarian trip. which only fueled more online speculation because Chris Tucker is only one alleged name in a growing list of celebrities suddenly being looked at very differently. But long before viral interview clips, Katt was openly criticizing something much broader, the normalization of certain kinds of abuse in comedy itself.
The problem with Friday After Next is we're trying to make a classic comedy. And this comedy involves a rape. And rape is never funny, no matter who it happens to or what the circumstances are. If you would allow me to allow us to do this movie without a black man getting raped in it, I promise you that it will be twice as funny as it would be with him getting raped.
The more Katt stands up for his morals, the more Hollywood starts sounding less like a glamorous entertainment industry and more like the rotting institution it is today.
Now, from the producer of that movie, they did state that there was never what he is discussing right here inside of the script, that it was never there. So a clear other side of that story, and those two stories did not match up. Someone's telling the truth and someone isn't.
Almost a year after all of this aired, federal agents would raid Diddy's homes, which then blew up some of these clips even more. And this also added credit to some of his other jokes, leaving many to wonder whether these were really conspiracies at all or just classified scandals the public wasn't supposed to know about, just like his dress conspiracy.
Martin tried to put me in my first dress. When he had to go on his hiatus, he tell me, Katt, when I come back, I need you. You my young partner, you my brother in comedy. When I come back, just promise me that my next movie, it'll be me and you. We gonna do it together. We gonna do some buddy cop shit. I said, Martin, you got my motherfucking word. Go do what you gotta do. When you come back, I'm in your movie. Don't trip. I don't need to see the script or nothing. You know, we get in that office and this fool pull out Big Mama's house too. You don't care how people feel about the ritual. Oh, these guys are wearing dresses. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is.
The idea is that powerful figures in the upper echelons of Hollywood pressure male comedians and actors into wearing dresses publicly as a form of humiliation, control, and submission.
Kevin told you he wasn't gonna wear no dress until they offered him the dress, and then he put it on. And what did he say after he wore it? I made my own decision. Duh.
And whether people believe the theory or not, there's quite a lot of circumstantial evidence to at least make it sound plausible. And it doesn't seem nearly as out there now as it did even a couple of years back. But it still speaks to another side of Katt, because he has been smeared as someone who isn't easy to believe, and he hasn't always helped his own case. He once claimed he passed a Marine boot camp as a teenager, but then the Marines told CBS News they had no record of him. He said he was reading fluently at 3 and then got accepted to college at 7. And he also came out with this.
So there was a crossroads where we were both invited to an Illuminati thing, and it had to be one or the other of us, and decisions had to be made. One of us had to cut off all their hair and couldn't do the sideburn thing no more with the points. And the next person, they said, was going to get $200 million because they were going to pay him $10 million a movie to do 20 movies. One of those persons turned out to be Ludacris, and the other person turned out to be Katt Williams.
Ludacris responded to the claim, saying it was a joke, including with his freestyle he recorded in his studio.
Katt Williams ever really offered you a role in Fast and Furious?
To answer your question, I wouldn't be the right person to ask that question. I have no idea if he was offered a role in the Fast or not. But he's a comedian, you know, he tells jokes, so it is what it is.
We don't know whether Katt's rant had just gone too far into silly territory or whether he was embellishing at least a grain of truth. Besides that, between 2006 and 2018, Katt had racked up over 20 arrests and was probably lucky to get away with some of them without graver consequences.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't help himself by how he acts sometimes in public. 20 arrests is actually insane. There was also another statement that he made, something along the lines, and please don't quote me here, but that he read a book a day when he was young, like a chapter novel every single day, or something like 3 chapter novels a day for a year. Something that was obviously not true, because people just don't have the time to do that. There's not enough time in the day to do what he was saying was being done. Now, again, I don't question his intelligence. I think that he is extremely smart. But I also think that he sometimes exaggerates certain things.
He also had a mental breakdown after getting booed off stage at a gig, then missing an appearance on Conan, and eventually ending up in a facility for 2 weeks, which he would very openly joke about in his stand-up.
Me, I didn't even know they was allowed to do. I knew they could take a nigga to jail. I thought that was it. These motherfuckers put me in a real mental institution with real crazy people. I tell jokes for a living. These motherfuckers got me handcuffed to a dude scraping demons out his face.
But despite it all, he's since remained mostly pretty cool and collected, hitting back when someone tries to undermine his credibility, like when Shannon tried to say he was a drinker.
I don't know, Katt. We might not let you drink anymore the way I mean, we ain't even got.
I'm not fueled by alcohol. I've had a sip.
It's a small moment, but Katt immediately clarifies he's sober, coherent, fully aware of what he's saying. And by now, he surely knows that he isn't the only one who's paid a price for talking. And he knows he needs to defend himself for getting this far. Courtney Love made one joke about Weinstein in 2005, similar to the one Katt made about Diddy, and was effectively frozen out. Rose McGowan helped expose his decades of abuse, and Hollywood treated her like the problem. Brendan Fraser alleged he was groped by a powerful industry figure and then watched his career evaporate. Mel Gibson spent years hinting at what he'd seen in the industry, and the moment his personal life gave Hollywood the ammunition, they exiled him for a decade while people who'd done objectively worse kept on working. So yes, if you warn about the industry, the consequences are very real. And by this point, you could see how Katt started to double down on some of his claims while swerving others.
Now, it makes sense, right? If you think about Hollywood as an industry and actors, actresses, comedians, musicians as people that work within the industry, if someone working inside of your industry where things are, dirty stuff is going on, and the people that are working in that industry start to talk about it and whistleblow about it, of course, Hollywood's not going to want to work with you anymore. They're going to want to blackball you because you're telling all of their dirty secrets and you're trying to get them in trouble. So Hollywood actually blackballing these talent, it makes sense, right? Because they can't have someone working with them that's going to then try to also burn them to the ground at the same time. So it actually makes sense why Hollywood is blackballing them. It doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make what's going on in Hollywood right either.
One of those moments was with Theo Von, where he doubled down on the dress theory, but something about the delivery was different.
Ritual is something that you do over and over and over again a certain way. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If part of the ritual is wearing a dress, then we should be able to look through entertainment and see all of these people being made to wear a dress. That's what a ritual is. You know what I mean? Like, whether they're white or black, that doesn't matter. There's not other jobs where this is a requirement.
Same argument, but notice how measured it sounds compared to the Club Shay Shay version. No names, no jokes, just the idea laid out carefully. Though it has to be said he's smoking a big joint and does look pretty high, which might have something to do with it. He also claims that certain celebrities advanced faster because they were willing to play along in ways he refused to. Like Kevin Hart, a comedian Katt has spent decades openly criticizing. Because every time he rejected something, Kevin Hart took it, and then Katt's public life seemed to collapse immediately after. Some point to moments like in 2008 when Katt allegedly lost his role in Fool's Gold after being arrested for bringing a gun in his suitcase he didn't claim to have. Then that very role eventually went to Kevin Hart instead. This very public feud cranked up a notch when Katt openly called Hart a puppet during a stand-up show. The following day, Katt turned himself in on a bench warrant but was hit with another unrelated charge while in custody. He believed it was all orchestrated, but maybe someone wanted to put him in his place. They've now just buried the hatchet when Katt showed up as a surprise roaster at Netflix roast of Kevin Hart a couple of weeks ago, where he delivered his jokes and the two hugged it out on stage. Hart later said they'd had a private conversation months earlier and agreed it was time to move on. And so these high-profile moments back in the mainstream do seem timed with some general changes in Katt's antagonistic behavior, which feels more obvious when you look deeper at that interview with Theo Von. Take this moment when Theo pushed into darker territory and Katt goes pretty edgy.
You know, I've heard you kind of allude to the fact that there's like kind of darker forces that kind of like, that present opportunities to people in trade-off, right? In trade for their own maybe their own peace, maybe their own reality, maybe a sacrifice of their actual direction that they want. Do you think that really happens, that kind of stuff?
I think everything is controlled and regulated.
This at a point when Theo himself is worried about getting heat from the industry. Katt then goes on to say,
We don't protect the whistleblower, right? We don't honor the scout that would tell us who it is. Matter of fact, when they get him, we're gonna go, I could have told you that was gonna happen.
If nothing else, he's become pretty resigned to the facts behind what he's saying, which echoes how desensitized everyone feels about things like this.
Like to compromise themselves for entertainment?
Again, the things that we are discussing exist in each of the fields.
Right, any field.
Right. Not entertainment exclusively. Politics, religion, science, everywhere, right? Some of this is human nature, right? Because we listen and we don't judge.
Yeah. It still seems juxtaposed to a man we only saw a few months ago.
I was as shocked as anybody about how powerful Harvey Weinstein was. They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to suck my in front of all my people at my agency.
Do you think, some people think that guys like Martin Luther King were compromised by the CIA. Do you ever believe stuff like that?
For 50 years, y'all been wondering, what the happened to JFK?
They had a big bust with Puff Daddy where he got arrested. And then they've had like accusations and stuff. He hasn't gone on trial, I don't think, yet.
It's how all cases are handled. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no.
The clips, the comments all notice the same thing. He's been warned. You can tell by how cautious he's answering questions indirectly. He was paid a visit for sure. If anything happens to him, he wasn't suicidal. Because by now, people had comprehensively stopped asking, what if Katt Williams is crazy, and started asking, what if everything he said was true? And here comes the reconciliation of his story and his next moves, which shows there's no theatre in how he publicly refuted Hollywood. Katt's latest tour, Heaven on Earth, kicked off in January 2025, off of the back of his Netflix special Woke Folk, which then became the most watched comedy special on the platform that year. The tour was extended due to demand, with multiple arena dates across the country. This isn't a comedian limping through club dates after being blackballed. This is someone filling arenas like never before. It's just like what happened to Shane Gillis when they tried to cancel him. Common sense prevailed, and we got a feel-good Hollywood rebel story for once. But this underlines the thing about Hollywood and the entertainment industry. People like Katt and Shane have to fight for opportunities, and there's going to be some level of personal pressure to progress when they get them. That might be why Katt told Sherry Shepherd he decided after the Shannon Sharpe interview to only speak publicly maybe 6 more times and let the interview speak for themselves. That sounds like he's either made a personal career calculation or it all got too intense for him. Both are pretty human responses to this situation. And then there's his future plans, including the army base he just purchased to isolate himself from Hollywood. Wow. Decommissioned in 1999, Fort McClellan spans 90 acres in Alabama. It contains around 30 buildings and was purchased by Katt to make his own off-grid studio.
We can do this. I just needed to be able to have a home where great movies and entertainment product could be made without any of the shenanigans that are generally involved with Hollywood, that all it needs to do is be good.
That's actually pretty cool, I think, that he bought that army base. That's, for someone that's got a ton of money, a pretty interesting thing to buy, especially if you want to do the off-grid life.
If it's good, we're gonna make it.
He told GQ that black entertainment needed more people building infrastructure, not just performing inside someone else's. On Jimmy Fallon, he joked about the only condition was I'm not wearing dresses, and then invited Fallon to come film there.
Right, so Tyler Perry got a military base.
That's correct.
Made it into a movie studio and started making movies. Katt Williams.
Bought a military base. Are you making movies?
I'm not wearing dresses.
The army base is a move that only makes sense if you take Katt's worldview seriously. You might get sick of the parties, the favors, the leverage, and the silent agreements that are all part of the cost of doing business. Building this in Alabama is about as far as you'll get without leaving the US. Whether that's paranoia or strategy depends entirely on how many of his other claims you believe by this point. Either way, Katt has joined a hall of fame of those who spoke up against those around him, caused viral moments that got people clocking on to what's happening, and survived to tell the tale.
That was really put together well. I'll be leaving the full video in the description of this video, as I always do. And if you want to dive deeper into the Katt Williams story, we've covered it multiple times on the channel. You could check out this video, and I'll see you guys over there.